Hey everybody, welcome back to the studio. Well, in today's video, I want to address another area that I hear so much misinformation about, and also that I get asked so many questions on, and that is, do you need, or do I need, or does anyone need a camera with dual card slots? And if so, or if not, what are the disadvantages and what are the advantages? Why would I buy and why wouldn't I buy a camera with dual card slots? All right, so let's get into it. When I first started digital photography, the cameras that I had and the cameras that you could buy only had one card. Didn't even think at the beginning of backing up in camera. Now, we had ways of doing it when we were shooting. We had pocket readers where you could put a card in it and it would transfer all the data from the card onto this pocket reader. We had laptops that would take with us and would back up when we went, but all that was a pain because not only did you have to back it up, but you had to make sure the backups were actually there, that it actually worked. And until you got back to your office, or to your studio or whatever, you just never knew. Whereas with dual cards, having them shoot at the same time and saving to both cards at the same time, you know you have a backup. You know that if one card should go, or if the camera all of a sudden doesn't write to one card but doesn't tell you, or one card gets corrupted, or anything happens, that you've got a backup as you shoot. Now, cameras allow you to do different things. You can save JPEG on one card, RAW on another. You can save on some cameras JPEG and JPEG, and you can save on some cameras RAW and RAW. It's entirely up to you. It's entirely up to what you know how to use. If you're a RAW shooter and you don't shoot JPEGs, then just back up RAW and RAW. If you're a JPEG shooter, shoot JPEG, JPEG. But if you want to cover off both, and there's a reason for doing this, shoot JPEG and shoot RAW. Okay, so if you're doing that, if you're having it save at the same time to the two separate cards, every time you take a picture, you know that you instantly have a backup. And you instantly have the security of knowing that you have two copies of whatever you shot. Now, that's the advantage. And that's the biggest advantage. Honestly, there is another advantage. This isn't that big. I've heard people say, oh, this is a huge advantage. And it's like, no. People say, well, if you shoot JPEG to one card, RAW to the other, if you're shooting for newspaper, if you're shooting for a publication, if you're shooting for stuff, you can just grab the RAW files, put them in one folder, grab the JPEG and use them right away, send them off to the editor or whatever, and then have the RAWs for more important stuff. Well, most cameras that I've ever handled, that I've ever dealt with, will also allow you to save JPEG and RAW to one card if you've only got one card reader. So to me, that's not just a big thing. That's not something that I'm going to say, oh yeah, definitely do it for that. I shot for press for many years. I've gone out on accidents and newsworthy events, and I've had to have stuff uploaded instantly. And I just shot JPEG, came back, uploaded the JPEG, and I was done. I've shot RAW and JPEG, just came back, had my program split the JPEGs and the RAWs, downloaded the JPEGs right away, and then later on I dealt with the RAWs. There's different ways around it. The biggest advantage of having the dual card slots is that you have instant backups. Okay. So now, before we get on to the disadvantages, I want to give you a couple words of advice. If you do have a camera with dual card slots, if you are saving JPEG and JPEG or RAW and RAW or whatever, get the cards of the same size and switch them out both at the same time. Saves you a lot of hassles, a lot of headaches. If you're down to 5 shots left on one card, time to switch them both out. When you do switch out, get a wallet so that you can put your cards into the wallet, and put one wallet with let's say the SD cards into your pocket, and take the other package of cards and put them in your camera bag. Keep them separate. So if anything should happen, if your camera bag happens to get stolen, if you happen to leave it somewhere or anything like that, you have the other backups with you. Now, people ask me, well, why not, instead of switching cards and so on and so forth at a wedding, and this is a bunny trail, why not just use a massive card? You can go out and use a humongous card and shoot an entire day on one card or on two cards if you're backing up with a dual card reader. I honestly don't like putting all my eggs, shall we say, in one basket. So I prefer a card to shoot the ceremony and maybe the formals, and then another card to shoot the reception. I will back up during the day if I have time to a laptop. I back up to an external drive on the laptop. I'll do a lot of stuff, but I just don't like having just that one card or two cards with just everything on it. To me, that just scares me a little bit too much. So I like shooting on 2 cards or even 3 cards, depending how big the event is. And if I'm using a dual card camera, then I actually double that. So I go to 4 cards or 6 cards. All right. Disadvantages. Well, the biggest disadvantage is that most cameras, well, I think all cameras with the dual card slots are more expensive. Yep. Other disadvantage, and this isn't a big one for me, is it takes double the money to buy double the cards. Well, I have to say, if you're doing this professionally, or if you're doing it as a serious amateur, if you're going on trips to take pictures, if you're recording stuff that's a once in a lifetime thing, having the dual cards, purchasing an extra card really isn't that much of a cost expense, in my opinion. I think it's worth it for the safety. The other complaint I hear a lot is, wow, that's a lot of storage to put on your computer. Seriously, with the price of external hard drives, you can easily get a good size external hard drive. They'll let you save 5 or 10 weddings on it, even more, and still have tons of space left over. So I don't find that a big deal. Another disadvantage is you have to download 2 sets of files. Again, not a big disadvantage, but yeah. So what do I think? Do I think that you should have dual card slots? For most people, honestly, I don't think that you need them. Honestly, unless you're doing it where it's starting to A, be a job where you're guaranteeing people a product, or B, if you're investing a ton of money into traveling around the world and stuff and taking pictures, and you want to make sure that you have the backups and you're not able to back up on a regular basis onto a laptop or whatever, I strongly recommend dual card slots at that point. Otherwise, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other if you're just doing it as a hobby. Now, I've heard people say you can save video to one card and stills to another. Yep, you can do that on some cameras. Honestly, again, if I'm saving video, if I'm just shooting pictures and it's a paid job, I prefer them being saved on 2 separate devices. I don't like saving one to the other. It's just something fun for me if I'm going out with the family and just shooting a little bit of video for YouTube, a little bit of video to share with the family or whatever, and I'm shooting stills. Sure, I'll do that. I'll save one and the other for something else. But honestly, I prefer having backups of everything. Now, if you do have a camera with dual card slots, make sure that it is set to it is saving 2 separate files. Make sure you don't have it set that it's saving to one card till that card gets full, then saving to the next card until that card gets full. Not that it's a big deal, but if you're expecting backups, it's nice to have backups, and it's nice to actually make sure that your pictures are secure. Well, you can tell fall's here. The bugs are starting to come inside. There's a fly buzzing around. I'm going to go and get rid of a fly. So until next time, have yourself a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Get out there and take lots of pictures. Bye-bye now.